Nazim Sadykhov has an interesting nickname, right?
I'd say so.
Nope. Chuck Testa. He becomes the UFC's second Black Wolf, making his debut this weekend. Off of Dana White's Contender Series, we have Sarah Longo MMA's
Harry Connick likes the freaking lasagna. Nazim Sadykhov taking on the Phenom, Evan Elder. Matt, for Evan Elder, he's the fourth variation of the Phenom to make it into the UFC. I can think of a couple, like you get Kevin Lee, he's the Motown Phenom. You got Vitor Belfort, the biggest Phenom. And Evan Elder looking to follow in the footsteps. Both guys looking for their respective first UFC wins, because for Evan Elder, he made his debut on very, very short notice, taking on one Preston Parsons. That was on about 3 days' notice. He replaced Louis Cosi, moved up to 170, a division he hadn't competed in since 2017. And for Evan Elder, a guy that spent a lot of time with Shamrock before making the plunge into the UFC, had some fights with the LFA as well, and FAC. His last one was over Marcus Andruja a little over a year ago. And Andruja was one of those guys that you kind of expect him to get a win over a guy like that to then make it further. And sure enough, so does Elder. So Matt, in this matchup, Elder's one of those guys. He's also out of a big name gym, Killcliff FC. You see Michael Chandler there. You've seen Gilbert Burns there as well. Elder's one of those guys that, and I can say this for both of these guys, very, very well-rounded, decent striker. The thing that I really like at Evan Elder, kicks to all three levels and he disguises them and masks them very, very well. He goes balls to the wall with pretty well everything that he does, but his cardio usually tends to hold up for the length of his fight. So I really do like Elder as a prospect, and I have to say this, Matt. I said it last week with Jesus Aguilar. He's taking on Tatsuro Taira. I'll say the same thing for Evan Elder. If you're below 26 and you decide that the goatee is my look, like, do you drive a minivan and already have two stepkids?
You definitely smoked cigarettes in high school. I would say that's a fair guarantee, but
fights to the parking lot led to your MMA career.
Oh, 100%. Undefeated in the streets, bud. I see red. I was really impressed by what I saw to Nazim, though, leading up to his UFC debut, and I'll be very excited to see what version of him we do get coming in to the UFC, because, like we had mentioned for Tatsuo Taega last weekend, I was really impressed by him, but I kind of had to see it before I was really sold, and now I think I might be the conductor of his fan club. I seem to bring him up every single week, but for Nazim, I really like his ability to pivot on the inside when he's in the pocket. It's not something we see all that often, and of course, when I bring up a name like Dustin Poirier, people are going to roll their eyes, because that's it to its highest level, but what I really like out of Nazim is he can switch stances while he's throwing combination, and that does give his opponent different looks in the middle of the pocket, which is already a pretty stressful place to be in, which we don't really talk about this enough. Guys are really good boxers, don't just hit hard and have good hand speed. They're really smart fighters too, because you have to stay calm and outthink your opponent in the most dangerous area of the fight. I really do think Nazim is able to do that against the guys he's been able to fight up until this point. That's why I'm saying it'll be interesting to see if he can still do those wrinkles and have those keys to his game at the UFC level against a guy like Evan Elder.
Both guys do it, but they do it differently. For Sadykhov, he's able to blend it into his strikes. For Evan Elder, we see him as a switch fighter, or I have him listed as a switch fighter, so does the UFC. When he took on Parsons, he decided to go southpaw, but in a lot of his fights, when he's orthodox, he has a ton of success. When he switches southpaw,
the defense isn't there.
Yeah, and it's almost to wait for the counters to then go for his own offense. So for Elder, up a weight class, Parsons is a big welterweight, and we know Preston Parsons. He had a fight against Mike Perry years ago. He is, well, a gym owner. He's a guy representing the Jacksonville.
You know my rule, though. When we bring up his personality before any of his skills, it's probably not a great sign.
No, I mean, Parsons owns a gym, jiu-jitsu specialist, has good wrestling, big guy for the division, and Elder struggled against that on 3 days' notice. You're not going to be able to game plan for stuff like that, but when I do look at it in this overall matchup, Matt, both guys very good strikers, both guys similar in ways, but when I look at a guy like Sadykhov and you look at him strike against some of the guys that he's faced on the regional scene, combined opponent record, 21-7-1, that's pretty damn good. And then if you look at it, against Hassan Zada over on Contender Series, he was a -175 favorite. But you watch all of these fights, and I mean, holy smokes.
It's the talent.
It's the talent, the hand speed, and even the win that he had before he was on Dana White's Contender Series against Borshig. Referee Joe Solis, Texas's own favorite son. It's the hand speed and the combinations that he's able to throw and mixing his power shots into some of these.
And that's why I worry about Evan Elder. I agree with you on the point that he does have very good kicks from the outside, but it's really hard to throw kicks when you're in boxing range with your opponent, and that's what I think he's going to struggle with in this matchup. If Elder can poke the jab out there, use some long-range weapons to just keep distance throughout this matchup, then yes, I think he can have success. I just think that once it does enter the pocket, that's when he will be a half step behind, because like you had mentioned, Sadykhov's hand speed is not second to none, of course, but he has very speedy hands on the inside, throws in combination, not just single shots too, and the good thing about a fighter who throws in combination is it's hard to be off balance when you throw in combination. When you just load up on a single shot, when you miss, you become off balance and you open up counter windows for your opponent. When you throw in combination, though, you're always thinking about the next shot that's coming, and it keeps you very disciplined within your striking style, and that's what I've been really impressed with Sadykhov up until this point. But again, I can't stress this enough. I think we will learn a lot more about both of these guys, to be completely honest, after this matchup, because like you said, fighting up a division on short notice, it's really hard to get a feel for how good an athlete is. This is back to his more natural division against a guy who is making his debut, so you worry about some of those jitters. I think this is a really fun fight to be had, and I think it's a close one on paper, too.
We'll see for Sadykhov if he decides to make the same move that his teammate Marabdashvili did and tattoo the flag onto his chest, because they won't let you walk out with your flag anymore. So Marab taking the plunge with Georgia. Sadykhov out of Brooklyn area in the States, but also representing Azerbaijan. Matt, when we have a look at the odds in the matchup, Sadykhov is the favorite, -170 against the bigger man, +140 Evan Elder. We have a look at the Tapology votes. Surprise to us, they are to you. I'm going to say, odds are close, and they're closing in closer to par. I'm going to say over-under 67.5% Sadykhov, but the fans have been wild out there.
And that's why I think he's going to be a big favorite in this. Yeah.
460 total votes. Sorry for my delayed reaction. 93% Sadykhov, 68% by knockout for the 7% that have Elder, 43% by decision, 33% by knockout. I think that gap's going to get narrowed, but I think the odds are going to continue to close into par. But when I look at a guy like Elder, Matt, we saw it all together on the regional scene. Again, you go look at his knockout win by knee over Padilla. It is just a highlight because the fight's really quick. His win over Marcus Andruja. Andruja was 37 years old.
9-16.
And he took the fight on short notice, and Elder did look really good. We want you to see, we want to see you get wins over guys that you should get wins over. And he represents a good gym, even though he's on the small stage. But I think Sadykhov, it's just the hand speed advantage and the fact that he can rip those combinations and get out of that pocket before Elder's going to have a success. For those reasons, I have Sadykhov in the matchup. But if Elder gets the win, boy, wouldn't that be something, and I think this can be a really fun fight.
I hope this does kind of turn into one of those fight of the night style fights, because if that's the case, both guys get tested, and that's kind of the perfect scenario for any prospect that you think has any level of hype behind them. I do have Sadykhov for all the reasons that you had mentioned. I just think he has some of those high-level intangibles that you look for when you look at fighters who might be able to actually break into the rankings one day, and that's the thing. In the lightweight division, you gotta win 6, 7, 8 fights in a row for one of those big opportunities, so it'll be interesting to see how both guys' careers develop after this point, but I also have Nazim.
Big time matchup coming up this weekend at lightweight. Both of us going with Nazim Sadykhov, the Black Wolf, taking on Evan Elder. Some big time matchups on the card, including Santos versus Blanchfield in the main event. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.